Welcome to MentorTime. I am going to talk about not all the GPTs because there are just too many. I'm going to talk about those I see as important for you all to start using, use more of in career uses and what I'm hearing about it and reading about it. So we will go through 3 sections. All the GPTs, I'm going to go over what they are, briefly what we're talking about, and which ones, how we're categorizing them. I'm going to talk about the career uses. It's my categorization of what I see as important for you all to know about these and the ones that I've tried out that I think are important for all of us to know. And then we'll talk about what does this mean for you. As always, leave you with actionable items that you can take forward to start trying this out. Tell me in the chat, one, if you've tried more than one type of AI program out, however you define it, and 2, if you still haven't tried anything. Only ChatGPT, that's great. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Mary. ChatGPT runs you Zoom AI, great. Same ChatGPT, Alec, great. So there's some things today I think you'll find useful. Hiram, you do too, great. Welcome, nice to see you again. And Charlie's Autopilot is in here, which is also one. All right, let's just remind ourselves, what is GPT? And it doesn't tell you a lot, except generative, meaning it's developing something. Pre-training transformer. The basis of ChatGPT and all the GPTs are these large language models. So when I started preparing for this late last week, I thought, oh, let me Google and see how many named GPTs there are. I came up with a Wikipedia page. This is not up to date, and it's certainly not what people are still abiding by. But these 2 economists had these the criteria for what makes a GPT, and there were 24 up until this was written. And typical in Wikipedia, you don't always know when it was edited. When I did the same search looking for a number, I saw at the top that is over 19,000, and that was in November 2023. Now, jump forward just briefly. What happened several months ago was the ability to take a GPT, a large language model in the GPT, and create your own, which we'll be talking about briefly, suddenly burst on the scene. I'm willing to bet that 8 months ago, there were probably 30 or 150, or I think I saw 150 on one search I did. These are proliferating, and if you hear it talked about, people are now calling it my GPT or my AI. It's that personal now. I want to talk about the big ones, and these are the big ones done by big companies or companies with a lot of investment. The first one is one that came online, announced on 11/22 in November, almost a year and a half ago. I believe late September, we started seeing evidence of it, and I couldn't verify that. It's just my memory that it was well before the end of the year. And 11/22 is when it became open for registration by the average person, not just the big scientists who were working on it. That's the ChatGPT screen. You've all seen it because you're using it, which is great. Next is Anthropic. These are going in order when they were unveiled. I couldn't find a date, but this looks like March 14th, 2023 probably was a press release from them or a website page on Anthropic. Anthropic has had a lot of venture capital moving towards this. And it's one that I have the least amount of experience with just because I keep forgetting it's there. Bard came on the scene about 8 months ago. And what Bard does is not just exactly use the GPT, meaning this database of stuff, why ChatGPT originally lied to us, or they call it hallucinations, which I think is giving them a pass. It would just make up facts because it didn't have the stuff in there. It only went as far as 2021. The free version is updated now, but they have a premium version, of course. And the newest one, which again, I haven't tried, is Microsoft Copilot. This only came out a month or several months ago. They offered it, but you had to be an enterprise Microsoft user. It was for teams, big teams, office workspaces. As an individual, I couldn't get it until about a month ago because I have a Microsoft 365 account. And I ran out of time yesterday and today. I didn't have time to play with it, but I'm sure it'll be helpful like Bard is. It's Microsoft putting a stake in the ground. Now, you may remember the debate with Sam Altman, who developed all of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and he got fired, then he got back on, and now Microsoft basically owns them. They had a huge investment in OpenAI, but now they've got OpenAI under their tent, and I'm sure they're very happy about it. Examples of other GPTs, here's something we've been using for over a year where they've already had AI stuff. So I noticed I started getting not just more suggestions from Grammarly in the desktop. Grammarly would hover over the OpenAI chat box where I was typing my prompt and say, you want a citation for this? And I'm like, get out of my way. It covers things up. But you can see the toggle switches are on for all of these things by default to help you out. Last week, I was on a webinar. People were selling a lot of value about how you can do LinkedIn better, faster, almost bordering on what goes against LinkedIn's code of conduct. But this VAI is a program specifically for helping you comment on LinkedIn posts, write articles much, much faster for the profiles of your choice. And they've got a whole package. And I'm hearing about LinkedIn locking things down. Just last week, people were doing searches in Google and discovering that LinkedIn had locked down more and more. Our headlines are about statements. You used to be able to get all that directly from Google searches. And that was good. We were all being indexed on Google, like our Google on LinkedIn's articles have been indexed for a decade. So this I thought was interesting just to put up there and give you a sense of that. And then one of the things that I looked at when I did the search about different uses of new GPTs was a set of Reddit comments. You'll notice the second one talks about we're using GPTs, meaning they've developed their own. So it's all very interesting how people have my husband yelling at Alexa because she doesn't give the right answer quick enough, or it goes on and on with too much information. Over the last several months, I've been in some really good webinars from evaluation researchers, from people using it for general purpose LinkedIn commenting, being more efficient in your work. And I know we had a discussion on AI in a previous MentorTime. And here is what I think are the best practices and commonalities. And that is, you have to think about prompt writing as an art. And this should be easy for all of you who are on here. Ron and I have worked with all of you. We know you know about how to write good instructions for people, how to write learning materials, how to write good survey questions. All of us are working on this. The area that's most helpful that we don't always think about is not just identifying the audience we're writing for, but what kind of voice do you want it to have? So do you want to write as a team manager? Do you want to write as a CEO? Do you want to write as a colleague asking for collaboration? There's a variety of things, and I'll show you a couple examples. I did find an article from Zapier. The reason that I didn't feature it before I gave you what I think are important parts of prompt writing is because the order that they show this to you in is the opposite of the way that most of us would write instructions or questions or think about how we focus. The good news about this article is every one of those 8 topic areas has a ton of information in it. So if you're new or you want more ideas about prompt writing, it will give you specific things. So the more you read, the more it's helpful. And then I watched a replay from an organization I'm in. It was gated, but I had made screen copies. Pooja's really smart on using this for social media content creation, but actually her examples are good for any of us. I sent her a note 2 days ago to say, I watched your replay. I thought this was really helpful and really useful, not even thinking in my own mind about putting the thing together. So I contacted her and I said, look, this is in Innovation Women's membership area. do you have anything else? I found a YouTube link for you. And she said, oh, you can go ahead. I gave her the 4 screens I wanted to use. She said, go ahead and use them. She said, I'm going to be doing more talks on this, but I'm glad they might be useful. So it's not just writing a prompt, but she actually inserts in there, how can you learn to put more information in here? And it should look a little bit like what Ron and I work with you all on. When you write an evidence-based result statement, you're using numbers, you're using descriptive adjectives, you're thinking about your target audience. In the references, give you her YouTube link, which actually has these same slides, but someone recorded her doing a live audience presentation from back in the audience. You can't see the projected screen very well, but it would be interesting to listen to, and not just about social media. Let's go on to career uses. And for career uses, 1 year into GPT, we're a lot smarter than we were when all this came out. And for me, I looked at what I think the uses of people are finding most helpful fall in these categories: efficiency, idea creation or refinement, inspiration, and visual creating. All right. As I'm talking, I'm just thinking, did I confuse myself? I'm just wondering if I had a fourth. I think I had a fourth one there, but now I have to go. I think I have 4 sections. I should have checked. All right, efficiency. That's where I have a ton of examples, because I put this thing to the test over the last several months. I've been trying to teach myself how to use more advanced Excel formulas, because for those of you who've been in the course, you know you have to register, and you have to join Teachable, and you have to join LinkedIn if we're not on LinkedIn, and then you have to do a pre-course assessment, and you have to do the step tracking sheet. When I would go to office hours with my data and data viz person, Ann Emery, I would say, blah, blah, blah. So last year in February, I learned how to use a lookup statement, a VLOOKUP. I finally got that down. And lately I've been trying to do indexing and match. I've been hearing for months about go to ChatGPT, and I tried it months ago, and I'm back on trying it again. So this was a recent prompt that I wrote specifying what I needed, and it did give it. The difficulty is there are things that I find in Excel that they don't explain on any website about where rows and where columns are and stuff. But that's for another day. Analyzing learner comments. These are just a few comments, and I did it specifically to see if it would do even a beginning sentiment analysis. So I gave it 6 comments, asked it to classify positive, negative, or neutral sentiment and describe what they thought. And I thought it was useful. I have used it for comments. For example, when you all, if you've been in the course, you've filled in step tracking sheets. So I was looking for commonalities a few months ago on what people were saying was useful about the BioPara, for example, or the usefulness of the course book or the videos. And those are all blinded. It's not confidential because you could never be. I don't, if you even remember what you put in there for me. So I had it do some analysis, which I've used and have also used for some of the marketing. If I've got a quote from someone, I will use that, but I will often as well use just a summary of what course learners find. This was really helpful when I was doing a map. I just sent out, some of you, I think most of you would have received this info. I made a video graphic this year, and I needed to update the map, and I wanted to do the 2 full years of the course. So I had a list of countries, but I didn't want to have to go make a big, we had 77 countries, make big pivot tables and figure out how many people from each country. So I had ChatGPT tell me that, and then I needed geographic location. So I told ChatGPT, just give me all the capital cities. Very helpful to get this list. And then I could put it in Excel, clean it up, and upload it to make a map. Because it also did it by year. That was my request. The big thing I've been using it for a lot is summarizing, giving me abstracts, giving me key pointers and takeaway. And you all are aware of some of these meeting technologies that we have. I'm going to go over these 3 in order because these are the ones I've used the most, and they're the ones that are all free. I know that I used to use Otter AI thousands of years ago. And when video came online in COVID, Otter tried to get me to come back on and pay for their plan. I was like, no, thank you. So the first one came on, I think about 8 months ago. I found out about it from someone else, and it's called Fathom. It's in the note taker, is in our list of participants. And when I go to the recording, I get this, unfortunately, all black screen, but I can get a summary, I can get a transcript. It makes it very easy to copy it into a word processing document. The video is there, and this happens immediately. As soon as we get off this meeting, I will get a note from Fathom for it. And it will give me a list of attendees. It gives me a list of who's invited. So far as I know, no note taker tracks who actually showed up. And it also, as you can see at the top right, gives me a link to share it to you. So if you've been in individual meetings with me, and sometimes if this were important to someone and they needed the information tonight, I would say, I'll send you the Fathom link. It's not captioned, it's not cleaned up. And I try to put in my captioning that it's AI generated. So I'm not going to use it to upload to YouTube. You can actually download the video from Fathom as well. It will record from the time it puts itself into a meeting. I started this before Ron got on, and what I discovered is, and what's been problematic for me is, it only records when there's at least one other person on the meeting. I even tried to dial in with my phone and it didn't do it. When I do feedback for course learners or mentees that I need to get them feedback and it's not in a live meeting, I was then using Descript to get a transcript and using Bard or using ChatGPT to make a summary of the meeting so that I can put that up on Teachable, so that now you should have more meetings, bonus meetings coming online in Teachable that says, oh, today we reviewed Mary's step 1 and Paula's step 3, and here's what we focused on for all the examples. So I've used Fathom a lot. Every one of these AIs has difficulty, not just with names, sometimes with things that I would say and think, I spoke fairly clearly. I wasn't speaking too fast. This is what Fathom's output looks like. So for me, it was reasonable length. I thought, great. And the important thing is right up top, and you may have seen it on the black screen. It gives you the key takeaways, so you can quickly glance at these. This was office hours in December. TLDV is too long didn't view. For those who know TLDR, it's an old too long didn't read from when web pages began to be really long and arduous. 3 pages of a summary of this same, I think this is November. Yeah, this was November office hours. So same length of time, an hour. TLDV's platform, when you go to it, it looks like this. So I've been able to use both Fathom and TLDV in the same meeting. You can see the advantage there is I get all the videos, except you'll see in a minute, they don't keep the videos. But I've got the review of it. I've got the list. What was interesting when I went to it, because I usually don't go enter it this way, I thought it has an AI generator where it will take multiple meetings and summarize everything. I assume. I didn't want to try it out. I assume it's one of my 10 free credits, and then it'll want me to pay for it. But I thought, oh, that's really useful if you had several meetings on the same topic. Think focus group discussions when we're doing research, for example, or strategic planning if you're doing it in multiple locations. And then when you go to the meeting itself, they keep the recording for only 3 days, and you have to remember it's there. When you look at the left-hand side to that blue box, you'll see in yellow, those are their categories. So you can look at the topics individually and not just the whole summary. And then finally, Zoom AI just came online a couple months ago, I think, maybe. It's at least 2 months. It has the longest summary. To me, this is arduous getting through this much. It's like you're really reading 4 pages for a 1-hour meeting. Yeah, there's a lot that's important. And this was, again, office hours this was December, so it matches the one from Fathom. And the good thing is, and you'll see this if you are using Zoom AI today, you'll see a probably see a dialog box that popped up. Then you can press a button, give me a quick recap, catch me up, I think they call it. So the first thing they do give you, though, is they do give you this summary, a recap of it. And it's a decent summary. What drives me nuts about Zoom AI, it takes over an hour for them to get me a message. It comes in email. Fathom comes immediately in my email and it's on the screen. TLDV comes in the email. And Zoom takes over an hour. In my desktop app on Zoom, because I'm the host of the meetings, I can see when they put in the when the recordings got the Zoom AI stuff attached to it. It takes a while, so it's not instantaneously. Not a big deal. It's free of charge, but it's just you can't. I kept thinking I didn't get it. I didn't know. And their webpage on their AI stuff is worse than their instructions on how to put captions on. So take it from me. It's useful, and I think the summaries are useful, but most people aren't going to be reading beyond one paragraph. So just be warned about what you want to do with it. When I don't have Fathom available, in this case I did, and I wanted to compare it for you all to see, I use Descript, and then I go to Bard, because ChatGPT doesn't seem to be able to accept a 1-hour meeting transcript. It tells me it's too long, but Bard can take the whole thing. This is what I got from Fathom on the last MentorTime 2 weeks ago, and I really didn't think it did a good job summarizing a lot of the discussion around the main topic, leaving or being left. It was not helpful. This is what Bard gave me as the topics and the action identified, and I felt that this covered the topical stuff of leaving or being left much more completely than Fathom did. So again, just for you all to know, when you're summarizing, you'll get different kinds of things from different of these AI products. In terms of idea creation and refinement, this for me is really looking at where you know where you want to go, or you have a pretty good idea. You could do an outline of stuff, but you just need some more help and inspiration. So I could believe it, because I don't even think about this on a daily basis. Yesterday afternoon, I got to this point and I'd gone through all the meetings and all of this. And I was like, oh, wait, I could have asked AI to tell me what kind of 30-minute presentation I could have done on this. So I thought, okay, I'll do it anyway. So I think I asked ChatGPT, or no, I asked Bard for that prompt. And this is what I got. And here's the first 3. So it was interesting because each of them has pieces that I'm addressing in what I put together for today. It's useful. And when I first got ChatGPT, I asked it to design an evaluation plan. I asked it to do a presentation on a topic on data viz. And it was very generic. It was like anybody can write that. It was like how to write a strategic plan template that just says, figure out what your mission is and your goal. It was that unhelpful. This was much more helpful. So I thought it was useful. And I've heard more people talk about what they think the strengths of Bard are. Second area in this section is on visual creation. And so I just wanted something to put in this. I didn't know what it was, but this is using DALL-E to get images, and it's still having some trouble with the fingers. Part of the reason I use this is to show you the fingers on the left hand of the upper left corner. It has always been a problem. So I asked it to create a picture of, I was sitting here thinking, I'm at 2 monitors making a presentation about AI. I want to replicate that. And I said, tell me about making a presentation on AI tools. And what did I get? I got a wrench and other tools. And it's, this AI is really literal. So I changed it to a presentation about AI and GPTs, and I got more of what I wanted. I could have chosen the right-hand side where the man's in the blue looking away, but I didn't, because I want you to see. It's a little blurry, but I wanted to enlarge this one. There's still a problem with the hands and the face. It's having trouble. You can see it looks like the woman has 3 lips and an orange nose, and her hands just look not positioned for typing. It's a lot better than the 7 fingers and other things that I got early on when I was playing with. I used it to try to find images for things that the common stock photography don't have pictures of, like how do you show a networking meeting on Zoom? And I don't know that you can really, but anyway. All right, so now what does this mean for you? Here's my comment, first of all, and then we'll go through the 3 areas. You now have to consider, including Sue, who didn't even think about this yesterday when she could have had AI design the whole thing. What is AI removing from your work? Meaning, where are you gaining more efficiencies? Where are you not having to spend time doing hours of data analysis on qualitative data, for example, open-ended questions? And then you need to refine your description of what you now contribute and where you're able to use AI to show strengths of what you can bring in, how you can write strong prompts and get products that make you more efficient. I've recommended for several months that you start thinking about and describing ways you're using AI, what you know about it, what you do with it, because they are going to start putting that more into job postings, I'm sure, especially as they're moving towards skills-based hiring. I brought this up a few months ago, I think in the last Changing Nature of Work presentation that I do quarterly. But you need to be able to talk about what you are now doing with the specific GPTs that are making you have more impact or able to serve more clients in a smaller amount of time, or making similarities across certain profiles. For example, Mary, I was thinking about you. You do a lot of editing, and where are you writing common themes about dentists, for example? Thinking about Peter and all that he did in the Caribbean region on the different islands and what they've done on health systems and health system strengthening. So that's the kind of thing think about. And I came up with these 3 areas that I want to show you opportunities in. First is increasing your own visibility, get known and noticed. Second is building your credibility where you can see and be seen. And then the third is, and these aren't necessarily all linear, if you're changing or refocusing your career, because all of us are going to be refocusing our career at some point. In terms of the first one, I immediately, of course, thought of job seekers, people applying for promotions, writing evidence-based results, of course, in your resume. Yesterday, I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to test Bard and see if he can do what I already did for a presentation I made in May, where I came up and have now put this on Teachable. I delivered a presentation about writing evidence-based result statements and gave people a formula. I did it for Brenda Meller in May and have told many of you about it. You all have the similar focus of needing to describe your results, your achievements, and conveying them. So this is the prompts that I wrote, and I learned from a great researcher who early on, way back in, I think, May last year, was giving webinars on using this for research and evaluation. And she said, you don't have to give it all in one go, little by little, which is why I gave you best practices and I gave you what Pooja's recipe is. So I said what I was going to do. I'm going to give you the information. Here's the first input. I felt better putting input there. I don't know if they needed that or not. And then I put more input. And that was, so I gave them the formula and I gave them an example, them, he, whoever. And then I gave them 4 statements of what I wanted them to do. And these were result statements from people that had agreed I could use their work before I didn't use them all in the presentation. But these were actually how they had written their result statements. When I asked Bard did the job. Bard did not write one statement. It wrote this as if it's Mary's eyes. It's so good Mary got it right away. I can't see the rest of you because of my screen, but it's too long. There's a lot of good information. It did the model. It did even make up things that you need to put your numbers into. So I felt better. Maybe I won't be replaced, because actually here's what I wrote. The middle panel is what I'd already written last May. And they're reasonable enough. They're not great, but they're better than what the person had in before. So far, I don't think I'll be out of a job, but who knows? I know a lot of people, including my daughter-in-law, months ago told me, oh yeah, I put my resume in ChatGPT and so I could make it stronger for a job she was applying for. And it's helpful because if nothing else, it gives you, like you see in Bard, it gives you ideas. What can I talk about? What should I talk about? Bard does over rely on numbers. In some cases, the numbers were there. In other cases, Bard made them up. But they're also examples of what I tell you. Use your intellectual property, use your adjectives and adverbs to describe the way in which you produced outputs or collaborated. And all of you have been through that with Ron and me. On the second one, in terms of building your credibility, this is going to be how and in what way you get your expertise out there, how you contribute, show what you've contributed technically. And this isn't every exhaustive list. Writing posts and articles on LinkedIn, writing articles on Substack, Forbes, whatever. Developing content, webinars of some kind, writing a book. Oh, that should have had a line between it. Competing for a TEDx talk. How and in what way can you have these GPTs help you better focus, help you refine messages, because you can use an iterative process. And one thing I didn't say when I showed you the prompts I wrote that I learned from Heather is once you put things in, you can say, now take what you just gave me and refine it more in this way. Now take what you wrote and make it 800 words or whatever you're trying to get to. Be aware that it can do repetitive without having to recreate the prompt each time. And then in the third area, it's those who are thinking of career changes. And in many ways, we're constantly, if you're always looking, as I recommend, you should be keeping your eye on job postings, on title changes. How are people describing what the work is that you want to be doing or are doing? But you might want to analyze career change, pivot where you're moving to. You might find job titles, you might find articles, you might have webinars where you can put that into ChatGPT or Bard and ask them, what are the commonalities across these 10 inputs? Identifying job trends and job postings and job titles. I've recommended this for several months to people. Take these, identify them as you don't know what exactly you want to be working towards. And another area you can do is use that information in the first two areas to compare with your strengths and gaps, to show you where you have needs, what are the indicators that you can, what are the needs and the indicators that you can fill. So I went through a lot quickly to give you a general idea of what we're doing and seeing, but also to give you ideas of how this is going to affect your work and where you can go. So Ron, comments? You're muted. Yes, you're muted.
Yeah, it's fascinating for me to see how this continues to develop. It's something that I've regularly been interested in. And as I indicated in the chat, that I've only used the Zoom AI companion, and I agree they tend to be long, fairly long, but I found them useful because they create a summary at the top and then a task list at the bottom. One thing while you were going through that portion of the talk, I was thinking about, in some ways, I think things like the ChatGPT and the like could change how meetings occur. I'm thinking more in terms of business meetings. A business meeting where, say, Zoom is part of the meeting or some other utility is part of the meeting. I had always learned that simple minutes of a meeting should really be this item was discussed and then what action was taken and then that's it, versus a transcript. And so for me, what I'm finding is I'm tending to take transcripts as opposed to taking proper minutes. Laziness or the easiness of using the AI companion allows it just to take a summary, which is more like a transcript, but it doesn't take that nice short compact thing, which is item based with an action step, etc. Now, granted, with the Zoom AI companion, usually there's a task list at the end, which is useful. And so typically what I do, I guess you probably do as well, Sue, and look at the summary and then go to the bottom and look at the task list. And so those things are good. And if you want details, you can pick it out from in between. So I'm still looking forward to trying ChatGPT and these others. As soon as I get myself a cell phone number, which I'm in process of trying to do that. Once I've got that, because that's something that some will not realize necessarily, is that ChatGPT won't let you play unless you have a cell phone number. I'm finally doing it. I bought myself a phone. I'm still waiting for a number.
Hallelujah.
It's going to be a Mexican number, but
That's all right. I can find you on WhatsApp then.
Yeah. Okay.
Except he'll probably turn it off all the time and won't use it.
What I'll do is I can assign my Skype phone number to all of that, and that's my plan, because I'm not going to carry a cell phone with me.
I figured.
Anyway, that's all I got to say. Other than it's very comprehensive. It's an area that we do have to pay attention to, and I think it's exciting times as to where it's going to go next.
Any other comments? Anybody want to add in? Sheila, I don't know anything about Cradle AI, and I know that Hiram said he's used a couple of them. Open for comments if anybody wants to ask or suggest or tell us their experiences. Mary, go ahead.
Thanks, Sue. And Ron, thank you. I was just going to say that, and I'm sure everybody's probably seen similar examples, but I applied for a job within the last week or so, and in the description, and there was a pretty lengthy Airtable document, like a Google Doc, to fill out. At the very top, you had to check a box that said you weren't using AI to generate any of your responses. And then on the flip side, on the flip side, I saw a freelance writer that I know had posted that she saw a job description where they wanted somebody to respond to everything using AI. And I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely still learning. I've used ChatGPT a little bit, but it also makes me a little nervous as a content creator and a journalist, and having done that for the last almost 30 years. It's just, what is happening? Like, nothing original is going to exist anymore.
I think you've got a challenge, and this has been ongoing discussions on LinkedIn as well, but remember that where these things stop is the critical thinking. They're spitting stuff back out. They can't determine what and how it applies or doesn't apply to your situation. And that's the kind of thing that I want you all to think about in your careers going forward. What do you bring that makes that even more valuable now? That you have to have a human. Years ago, doctors and nurses had checklists of stuff. If they have this and this, that's the diagnosis. But it wasn't exactly. It was indicating maybe he has gas in his belly. No, it turns out he has a burst appendix. Guess what? You know what? The doctor found it, because there's a lot we humans put into decision making. So you can worry, or you can get ahead of it like this and start to think about it. I think it's fascinating that the person wanted you to use it because it would show whether you can write strong prompts, or you even have a sense of how to get the information out of it. Go ahead.
Just a thought on that. We know of the writer's strike that happened in the US, and how not ChatGPT, but AI was a critical part. And so I'm not exactly sure how they resolved it in terms of the detail. But one of the things that I would think, because I've created training programs and the like, and the challenge I think will be is that ChatGPT and similar products are going to allow for creating a skeleton. I think creating a skeleton or a frame wouldn't be a bad thing. And then I think the real creativity for content creators is, okay, I've got this skeleton, I'll edit it, I'll make it more like what I think would work, and then go ahead and do it. I think as long as we're getting things like the AI products still hallucinating, and I think that's still an issue, and I think you had some examples of it, Sue, I don't know whether you realized it, that in the job, when you had those job
bullets,
accomplishments, etc. I think it was hallucinating for some of it when I read some of those details. Where'd you get that from? Exactly. And so it has that issue that's out there. But for my mind, it's using it as a companion as opposed to the replacement.
And thank you. Hiram said he uses Copilot because it's integrated into Microsoft Edge. And I've heard that it's very useful, but I had a lot going on the last couple of weeks with the new course cohort started. And so I didn't spend the time trying to get to it. And I knew Bard could give me some of the things I wanted to do, like the comparison of the bullets. I think Copilot will be ultimately very successful, but right now we're in the race, just like we see all the time. Apple, Google, Meta, everybody's fighting for a piece of the action, and they will continue to be. For all of you, the message is what's going to be helpful in your career. Use ChatGPT. It's easy, it's quick, it's lightweight also in terms of what you need to do. Bard is helpful, but you have to have it open. And I've been able to use Bard without any other problems, but you just have to, I'm not going to keep going back to all these other ones. As I said, I don't use Anthropic. I've tried it out a while ago. So figure out what works for you and figure out where you're getting content from that's useful, that you don't have to totally revamp. Use it for ideas, use it for inspiration, use it for efficiencies. And I will ask if there's any other questions. And I see Charlie's. Go ahead, Paula.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I've used ChatGPT before, but I'm definitely not in a career or job search context. I'm wondering if you can expand a bit more on your last 2 points of the previous slide, where you talk about how to use it for trends and job titles and stuff like that. I wouldn't even know how to go about that.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about it, Paula. And this isn't me. I've learned this mostly or realized the opportunity for it, but mostly because I'm on other webinars with resume writers, LinkedIn trainers. You want to find 10 job postings that are in the categories of the kinds of jobs you want to be doing right now. Just to identify similarities. What top 5 tasks are there, or top 10 tasks are there? So you can say, I'm going to give you one job posting after another. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. You can ask it to make a table. It can produce ChatGPT can produce a tabular format if you tell it, produce a table. I want the columns to be this. I want the rows to be this. And summarize each job posting, blah, blah, blah. You can take a list of job postings and with different job titles and ask it to find the similarities across those. So those are all just for things you're looking at right now. I've often said, don't just look at the job title. I'll tell you, look at the content, because one person's project coordinator is another person's project assistant. You can then start to identify trends if you're looking for jobs where you feel you're ready for a job stretch. So if you're ready to start applying for one level higher, you can start aiming towards those jobs, get those, do the same kinds of analyses, and you'll have the recording to go back to. I think I gave you 3 different things that you could do. But you want to also identify trends. Interestingly enough, LinkedIn last week unveiled State of Jobs 2023 or 2024, and how titles had changed over 20 years. First of all, I was like, duh. And second of all, the things that the top 20 they did a graph, a Sankey graph. So they went from what it was in 2020 to where it is now in 2024. Not really helpful. But if you want to look at what seems to be changing in your industry, you can ask ChatGPT or Bard or Anthropic, what do you see as trends coming for program managers who specialize in managing healthcare projects? Push it to its limits and try to get an idea about that. And if you want to do a career pivot or a career refocus or change, look at where you want to be. Get job postings for that, or where you think you want to be. Ask it what's the commonalities, and it doesn't just have to be job postings. Go to people's websites go to companies' websites where they talk about what their projects are, and look at what their projects seem to need in terms of then what are they advertising for and what might you be doing. So it's a big soup database that you can play around with, and you just have to decide. Like most of what we do in life, nothing is just an Excel spreadsheet is 2 levels, right? It's either up and down or across. It's not a 3-dimensional database, much as I'd like it to be, but that's how you get with these analytics. You can get the GPTs to describe things for you and then try to put them together and make it unique to your case, including putting in, here's the barriers I can't move. Here's the things I do have. I have a degree. I have this experience, or whatever way you want to push it. Does that help you, Paula?
Yes, thank you very much, Sue.
And if you come across something that you want to try out and you want to jump on a meeting, just let me know and I'll walk you through it, and we can figure it out together. Ron, if you'll close the meeting.
Thanks very much, Sue, for a really interesting presentation. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Quite a bit of interesting material. We will be doing another one of these. I believe it's in 2 weeks' time. I personally forget the topic, but look forward to getting together again in 2 weeks to discuss during mentor time. Thanks again.